Hey guys, welcome to the gym. So it's Saturday, I'll be training back today. I'm in a cut right now, plan is to drop 30 pounds. I dropped about 5 pounds this week, mostly water of course. And I'll be doing basically just bodybuilding work from here on out, probably till like June, maybe May, depending on when I get down there. I've been walking around 260 in my off season. So I'll probably try to get down to about 230 walking around weight by the time that we get to that June time frame. So 12 to 16 weeks as usual for a block. And today's gonna be back and biceps focused with a little bit of core work. So today I'm training back. It's Saturday. Normally that's what I do on Saturdays. So I'm gonna start with single arm lat pull downs. I like doing these better. They're easier on my shoulders and it's easier for me to isolate the lat more and not involve the bicep as much and some things like that. And then we'll move over to some seated cable rows.
And this is your like third day of the week training?
Yeah, this is third
Day
day.
3.
Yeah, I usually finish with the back day. This will be 3 sets of 9. And what I'm looking for is a nice deep stretch. Make sure that I isolate the lat as much as possible. Obviously the bicep is going to flex a little bit, but it shouldn't be much. It should mostly just be for stability. And to make sure that at the very top, the shoulder's traveling forward pretty much all the way. You can do this seated too, but with my setup, it's easier standing. You can see how I kind of twist my hand a little bit too. That's just something I do naturally. I'm not really doing it on purpose, but it's an easy way for me to keep the bicep out of it. It just feels a little bit better that way.
Nice.
Yeah. So those probably didn't look super hard because they're not. This is the first exercise of the day. And typically for whatever I'm doing, I'm gonna go not all out or anything like that unless I did a bunch of warm-ups. The next movement will be seated cable rows, and those I'll go pretty heavy for me, and they'll kind of finish everything off that I sort of started. This is just to get some extra lat volume in. I'm looking as more of an accessory for what I'm about to do.
So why are you gonna do this over here instead of on our other machine over there?
It doesn't go heavy enough. So it's actually a ratios thing. This is important to know about the machines that you train on. With the pulleys on this system, it's basically like a 1-to-2 ratio. So it probably about cuts the weight in roughly half or so. With these, it reduces the weight a lot because of the way the pulleys are designed.
Right.
So this stack goes to 200.
Yeah.
This stack I've got 190 on right now that I'm going to be rowing with. It feels way heavier than 200 on that is like a toy to me.
Right.
It feels like it's half or something.
Yeah.
Whereas this, it's actually like 190 is, I'm going to do, I think, I have to look at my program, but I think it's like 3 sets of 10 or so. That's basically going to be a max out. My last set is going to be pretty much a max. So it's a leverages thing. I just can't get the weight on these that I need with these movements. I'm pretty strong at rowing. I've been rowing forever,
Right.
Especially with strongman and things like that.
Yeah. Like I can do the whole stack of 200 over there.
Yeah, but you wouldn't budge that.
I could not budge that. There's no way. Yeah.
Yeah, and what I'm looking for with these, there's a lot of different schools of thought as far as like cheater reps and stuff. Honestly, I even think there's a place for cheater reps, particularly for strength sport type of athletes, depending on what you're doing, where you are in your periodization. But with these as a sort of nominal way, baseline of doing it, what I'm okay with is a little bit of rounding and then coming back. So we want to let the shoulders roll forward a bit at the top, and then we want to bring them back.
Get that stretch.
Yes, we're looking for that stretch at the bottom and then that full flexion at the top, where we're not just working like the lats, but also some of like the traps and everything else, and even the rhomboids, and bringing everything back. So everything goes forward and everything goes back, and of course, and it's going to come down kind of low.
Yeah.
So we're trying not to turn this into a curl, which you can kind of do if you're like bringing it high. It's really easy to like kind of curl it in. I'm doing curls later. The purpose of this is strictly to train the back. So we'll get after it.
All right. So if anyone wonders what that giant thing is over here, that's a wood stove that was here when we moved in, and it's terrible. We don't use it, but the guy that was here before cobbled it together out of an old tank.
Yeah, and it weighs several hundred pounds. It's a bummer because it kind of takes up a crucial space in the gym.
Yeah.
But that chimney that goes out was also homemade. And
Right.
it's this huge square stock steel that also probably weighs hundreds of pounds, and it goes out and up, and it's just not the kind of project I care to tackle.
It's staying there for now.
It's worth a lot in scrap, you know, if anyone ever wanted to grab it.
Yeah.
But so far, the couple people that have been interested have all backed out because of how much trouble it would be to get this out, because you can't just load this on a dolly. You need to use a tractor, or you know, maybe like a pallet jack you could do something with, but obviously the forklift, but you can't really get a forklift in here, so.
Right.
Yeah, so it's there and it's gonna stay there.
Nice.
So I'm gonna do some crunches next. This is the way I like to do them, on a decline bench that has something to hook your legs under for stability, and just so that you can really get turned into a good isolation movement. It's especially important for me because I have short legs and a long torso, so like anymore, because of the size of my upper body, I can't actually do sit-ups without something supporting me. And so what I'm looking for with these is to make sure that I'm isolating my abdominal muscles effectively, but not turning it into anything that's like a hip hinge movement, where I'm relying on hip flexors to do the movement. So to kind of give you an example, if I'm down here and I do this, almost nothing changed as far as the flexion of my spine. So this is not an effective sit-up. But what I'm looking for is to keep the hips from moving very much, and at the bottom, hyperextend the spine and then flex the spine. And when it's done right, it actually looks like you're doing less work from the outside in a lot of ways, because you don't actually move that much. But if you do like turn it into an actual like sit-up movement, then you end up mostly just working your hip flexors. It doesn't really do much for your abdominals. They end up actually becoming more of a stabilizer than a primary mover. So this is what a set of 13 could look like.
So if you were using your hip flexors, where would you feel it if you were doing it wrong?
You end up feeling it like in here.
Right, yeah.
And you also end up kind of feeling it in like the very lower abdominals, whereas right now I feel it fairly equally everywhere. Obviously, this hip flexors are going to do some work. You
Yeah.
can't avoid that, but they should be more stabilizing in secondary, and that's a good example of how to do it. And you should get like a pretty good burn. Most of you that are very high body weight at all, men that are above say 220, 230, women that are above, I don't know, I'd say like 160. If you do this right, you actually can't do that many reps. Like the people that say they bang out like 500 sit-ups in a day and stuff like that, they're basically using their hip flexors because your abdominals can't do work like that. Unless you're like super lightweight. Like if you're a guy that weighs like 130 pounds, then you probably could do that.
Yeah. So a lot of people that like squat heavy and deadlift heavy and stuff, they make the argument that you don't really need to do core work because you're already, using a lot when especially when you're lifting heavy. So what do you think?
Some people can get away with that, but once you get to a certain level of strength, and that's like just anybody that gets very advanced for their potential, I would say, it's probably going to be beneficial. You really can't have an abdominal core area that's too strong, and that's going to prevent back injury. And so like, yeah, you could do it and it may possibly not hold you back, but even just from a injury prevention point of view, it seems important. But also you could be, leaving pounds on the platform if you're a power lifter who doesn't isolate abs. Now, I will say the one sort of disclaimer with that is, honestly, people that have higher body fat, they don't need to do it as much because the body fat with the belt and everything does have a stabilizing effect. It does have a supportive effect. It actually supports the weight. And so people in that position may not benefit as much from core work as far as adding pounds to the platform. But certainly anyone that's at a healthy or lower, body fat, it seems to be helpful. And again, from an injury prevention point of view, it's like I'm doing 2 sets a week right now.
Right.
And I've been doing that for the last 4 months or so. My abs did get like a little bit bigger, a little bit more defined. So you don't need to do much if you isolate it really properly. Like my abs are on fire now. I didn't even do a 3rd set because I haven't had to, because like I do this and it's kind of like I'm wrecked as far as my abs go. Like I'll be feeling it tomorrow and probably the next day. And that's all it takes. So like, what are you doing that's so important that you can't take the like 2 minutes to do that? Like a lot of powerlifters rest a lot longer than that between sets, even in off season. So next I'm going to do, I have 2 curl movements I'm going to do today. I start with reverse curls first, and then I move to regular dumbbell curls. I like reverse curls on the easy curl bar because for me it's a natural position, and I'm doing it for the forearm gain. So when you do a reverse curl, you actually end up working both sides of the forearms more effectively. So you do because of the grip, because the bar sits instead of sitting in your hand, it's sitting sort of in your fingers more. And so you end up having to use this portion, the flexors, if you will, or the pronators. And then as far as these go, you end up using these more because they actually, like brachialis and some of those muscles, also do elbow flexion just like the bicep. And so the bicep obviously does a lot too, but you're involving all these other muscles, good for grip or just forearm growth in general. And in my case, I can always use a bit more grip.
So why do forearms on a back day?
I mean, you could do them on any day, but anytime we're doing anything that has to do with elbow flexion, that's naturally gonna belong on a back day or upper pull type day. So it's just sort of like you're already working your back. Biceps are kind of part of that, and so we end up doing biceps too. And it doesn't really make sense to put it on like a lower body day necessarily, or a like an upper push type of day. It's very different from the muscles you're working on those days, whereas in this case it's sort of adjacent, similar, or same. Because even with all the pulling movements, like the cable pulling and stuff like that I was doing, like your forearms get worked anyway because you're hanging on to weight and pulling during the whole training session on some level. And so grip always gets worked when you're doing upper pull, like back movements like that. And so this is just sort of finishing off some of those muscles.
So stronger forearms, stronger grip.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, and also supports the elbow as well, so that you have some of the other, like the brachialis and some of the other muscles that are on the forearm that are responsible for elbow flexion. This is going to just provide an assist to the bicep, make bicep injuries slightly less likely, and just support the elbow joint in general.
Nice.
Yeah. And what I'm looking for with these is obviously a very strict form. Some people get into their shoulders being forward versus back. I don't think it matters at all, so long as they're not moving a ton.
Yeah.
And a lot of people also are concerned about like the elbow traveling forward during a curl. So if you're not doing this, but if you're actually kind of coming up like this, it's okay for a few reasons. One, the bicep doesn't attach to the humerus. So it attaches to the forearm bone. So I think it's I forget right now.
Oh, yeah.
The radius or ulna, I forget which one at the moment. It also attaches to the clavicle.
Yeah.
But I should say the short head actually does attach to the humerus, but it's very uninvolved in most of these types of movements. And so if you think about it, the bicep is actually doing this, right? It doesn't just involve shoulder flexion. It also involves rotation of the shoulder as well. So you've got the flexion of the elbow and shoulder rotation. So that's okay. You can do one way or the other. I don't think it really matters. When you allow the elbow to travel forward and up like that, you are going to get some front deltoid engagement.
Yeah.
It's very small, very minor. I wouldn't worry about it. It's kind of like one of those, like, if you don't like it, then don't do it. But you are still training the bicep because it is involved in shoulder rotation and stabilization, not just elbow flexion like a lot of people kind of assume.
Yeah. So do it the same way every time and don't fling yourself around like a monkey.
We'll do it the same way every time during a training block, right? You can be very valid to do a training block in using one method and then switch to a different method in the next block. You just probably will need to adjust the weight. So like I can do more weight doing it this way, but if I was to not allow my elbows to travel forward, then I'd have to reduce the weight to keep it effective. The other reason I'm kind of doing this is just because my arms are big enough that this is how far I can flex. Like I can't go further, especially when my hands are pronated like this. Supinate I can get a little bit more, but I do this and see how they go out. And so this allows me to sort of like get the forearm upright at the top of the movement.
Yeah.
And I do keep them forward a little bit at the bottom as well, kind of for that reason, because I don't want to let the tension come all the way off. But again, these are sort of nitpicking things. Just move the weight. If you're getting super wrapped up in these details and like it's causing you to obsess about it or anything like that, just stop thinking about it and lift the weight.
Yeah.
That's a bit longer of a rest than I usually like to take because I was talking, but usually I only like to wait about a minute between sets when I'm doing work like this. I only go longer when I'm doing like heavier work or strength training.
Yeah.
Not for not for bodybuilding and stuff. It's better for conditioning and allows you to get more work in a short amount of time. Like I guess it will reduce how much total work you can do, but that has not been a limiting factor for me. I'm still making progress doing it this way, and it keeps my heart rate from ever coming down all the way during a training session. So again, like good for conditioning, good for a lot of things.
Yeah. It's funny because when we talk to people or they find out, you know, some of the things we do, that's like one of the first things we hear is like, you guys must, you know, live in the gym. I can't live in the gym. Well, that's that weird line. We're like, oh my goodness, we've never spent more than like 4 hours a week, like ever.
No. Yeah, right now I'm probably spending about 2.5 hours training per week, like pure training time.
Yeah, pure training
not talking
time.
Getting changed and
Yeah.
some of the other stuff, but like purely in the gym, about
Right.
2.5 hours.
Yeah.
Today's training session will take 30 something minutes.
Right.
I'm still growing on it, even as advanced as I am in my training career. I'm still making progress. Now that I don't expect reps and weights to go up pretty much at all pretty soon here once this caloric deficit really sets in and starts killing my energy levels and my recovery. But this is how most of my off seasons looked. And I put on a little bit of size on my chest. I've added a little bit to my back and shoulders. So you don't have to. It's more like being deliberate, smart, and careful. I mean, that's why we have coaches and stuff, because you can spend 5-10 hours a day or a week in the gym and get nowhere.
Right.
It's totally possible. People hire me that are doing that all the
Just
time.
go to any gym and watch all the people getting nowhere.
Yeah, I mean, when you walk into a gym, there's a bunch of people there that live there every evening, and they don't even look like they lift. If you saw them outside the gym, you wouldn't even know it. And that's why you don't have anything that's programmed correctly, anything that's structured correctly to actually get progress. It's just kind of like hangout time. That's good for them. It's better than not moving, but you're not really going to make progress.
Yeah.
Yeah,
your clients love that you get them in and out of the gym. That's like a compliment.
Yeah, yeah, it's funny because they end up getting better conditioned and they make progress without spending nearly as much time in the gym as they thought they would have to make progress. Because people like say, like I had one person right before he hired me, I was talking to him and he was like, well, I don't think I can spend as much time in the gym as you. And I was like, how much time do you think I spend per week? And he was like, I don't know, 15 hours. I was like, no, I've never done that.
Part-time job.
Yeah, and I was just like, no, at the time I was doing strongman stuff, and so it was a little more time intensive. It was like probably about 4 hours a week.
So your traditional dumbbell curls now.
Yeah, I mean, you can do them because I already got the forearm work over there. I'm not doing hammer style. My forearms are good, but it's just more comfortable for me to rotate a little bit during the movement.
Yeah.
And part of that is it's supination down here for me is difficult. They don't rotate very well for me anymore, and so it's just comfortable to be down here like this, but I want to get more isolation of the bicep and range of motion, because again, this is how far I can go in pronation, and then in supination I get another few degrees. So I can get a little more range of motion and better isolate the bicep during the curl, especially at the top. last time on that.
Yeah. Is this your last movement of the day?
This is it. Yeah, this is the last thing, so I'll wait a minute or two, and then I'll finish my last set of 9.
Nice.
Yeah.
Not as many exercises as some people would think.
No, it doesn't necessarily have to be. Although, so I'll say this, the stronger and more advanced you become, the less total movements for the day you can get away with.
Yeah.
Because you're capable of providing a greater stimulus per movement because of how strong you are. The human body doesn't scale size-wise and strength-wise. If you have a 700-pound deadlift, a 600-pound deadlift is still heavy. It might be easy, but it still causes fatigue, and it's not nothing. It's still quite a bit. And so you can get away with reduced frequencies, higher intensities, and reduced volume, or at least total volume, the more advanced you become because you're capable of a greater stimulus for the workout, basically. So people that I'm working with that are hypertrophy focused and bodybuilding, when they're beginners, the volume tends to be higher as far as total sets. But as they become more advanced, the total tonnage or the total weight moved, if you multiply sets times reps times weight, that might actually be fairly similar, often going up, but total sets, because you're doing less movements, may actually come down, and they're still going to grow.
Yeah.
Because if a beginner can do 7-8 movements in a day and like take the last set of each one to failure, I can't really and recover from that. Maybe on a 3-day program like I'm doing now, but on a 4-day program, it would just become too much. You'd need very frequent deloads. You could do it, but it'd be a lot.
So when did you figure out, you were probably 2.5, 3 years into training when you started being like, I don't think I can train like a regular hypertrophy program anymore. I'm too strong and it's too much stress. And
yeah, I mean, you just listen to your body, because honestly, some people do have the potential to be more tolerant of volume.
Especially the younger you are.
Yeah, younger people can handle way more volume than someone even like I'm in my mid-30s. So my capability to handle high volume is reduced from someone that's 25. All other things being equal. So yeah, it's usually like a few years into training is when this becomes more of a factor. But when it happens, you know it. And of course, if you're working with someone on our team, then we'll know it and handle you accordingly, because you'll get run into the ground. You'll feel really tired all the time.
Everything's hard.
You just get sore all the time. Your joints get achy. Injury risk obviously goes up, and so that's why we have people rate how difficult the movements are and everything on our programs, because that's how we manage training stress properly. And you start picking out certain consistencies and realize that a potential, like a trainee may need to change. We may need to change our approach with them or something along those lines, when things that were working before are now causing excessive fatigue.
Yeah.
Okay, last set. All right. All right, guys, well, hope you enjoyed that. Thanks for coming along and joining us for another workout. If you have any questions, post them below in the comments. Please like, share, subscribe. And if you're interested in working with us or have any questions about how things work at High Calling Fitness, send me a message and we'll be happy to get in touch. See you guys later.